what do you have to share from your life, your unique DNA, your upbringing, your time in the world. You took some left turns down the street. You met something. You tried something. You, somewhere in your life, you were in trouble. How did you handle that? I want to know that. What does love look like for you? How does it smell and taste? Are you like me on the inside? You see something you fancy and you can just go, but something in you makes you stop.
Welcome to Storytelling Insights, art, science, and great conversations with storytelling insights from researchers, artists, teachers, and many more. Kasper, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. I was really looking forward to having you because you are the number one storyteller in Denmark, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure everybody will agree, but I'm happy to hear that. And I'm glad to join you. I've been looking forward to this.
Thank you. So Kasper runs a number of schools, don't you? You run a storytelling school. You put on some events. Tell us a little bit about what you do, Kasper.
In Denmark, I have a life as a storyteller that has several openings to it. And one is that we run a scene in Denmark. We have a storytellers-owned, storytellers-based club in Copenhagen. It's named The Besttellers. And we are the only club in Denmark that does that. There are venues that also offer storytelling, but our venue is just storytelling. So we have shows every week, and some weeks we have several. This week we have 3 shows.
Amazing.
So that's amazing and fortunate. And there's a show tonight there that I couldn't make because I was heading into this. I was like, I'm so proud that 2 things can happen at the same time.
Well, I'm very privileged that you should miss the bestsellers, the only bestsellers in
the only. Yeah, but I've been there before, so it's okay. And then we have a school, a storytelling school, where people join us, and for several reasons. We have this at the club. We have this motto of urban and urgent. So we have had considerations about what is storytelling in the modern world, and how do we avoid becoming a museum. So we want to keep it real. We want to keep it with the audience of today. So that doesn't mean goodbye to the old stories and neglecting the tradition. It's about renewing the tradition and saying, okay, if we're gonna invite someone who has to not only buy the tickets, but also maybe get a nanny and maybe get a parking space, and maybe it's raining because it's Denmark, and they could have done anything with this night. But we invite them into storytelling. We want to give them something that is relevant for the modern listener. So either we tell modern stories, or we angle whatever traditional tale we tell to a modern ear, so to make it relevant. And the same with the story school. We don't want to make copies of ourselves. We just will say, you're in the world. Like you, what's your story? We want your truth, and we know every other animal is like running on instinct and doing the same thing over and over. When a lion is hungry, it has like one mode: track something down, eat it, stop being hungry. But we can have dishes from around the world. We can plant wheat and wait for it to ripe and then make bread. We have so many ways. We can look into the future. We have so many ways of doing life, and that's in all reigns of life. We can do that. So what you do is interesting because I don't know that. So teach me with your stories, please. And we try to apply that to the way we teach. So it's not like you have to tell it this way or this is right or wrong. No, the only real big deal is, does it work? Is it attractive to the audience to listen to you for 1 more minute? And if not, go work on it. If it is, then great. Then you
so
should
there's
be on our stage.
There's a lot of creative space for people to express themselves and tell their story according to what feels right for them.
Yeah.
And the truer, I guess, it is, then the more it resonates with the audience as well. I guess the more they're in their truth.
I see that, and not the truth is, and can I film it, but more like the human truth. The world is like that, yeah. That's how mothers and fathers do, or sons do, or that's how work is, or that's scary. Yeah, so that has to reflect the truth of the human nature.
Yeah. That's fascinating that, what you mentioned there about the lions, just, lions are hungry, they eat. Then the human condition has all these degrees of sophistication and these different, I guess, ways of combining experiences. So from your point of view and your 20 plus years of experience at the forefront of storytelling, what would you say your sort of secret sauce is? What makes your work so successful?
I think several sources have brought that, and one is the very big luck of being invited into this world and saying, "Wow, can this really happen? Can grown-ups sit down and listen?" Like today, just an hour ago, I left a gig, and that was at a home for the elder, and we did a Halloween night.
Right.
And here in Denmark, it's pitch black now, but then it was, I don't know the term. It's like when the blue hour comes.
Yeah, like twilight.
Twilight comes, and I was supposed to scare these old people. I was like, why? They're all pushing death. Fourth of them didn't have legs. They were so much life experience in that room. They have seen so much. They've seen the war. They've seen everything. How would I come and scare them? That's ridiculous. So instead, I thought, what is really truly scary for an old person? And that is to be forgotten, to be left alone to die, and we don't have time to come visit you. Okay, can we make a story of that? Here in Copenhagen, we have adapted the tradition of trick and treating. For the last 20 years, kids run around and they don't know why should they have something. They just want candy. But not one single child here knows about the praying of the death of the dead that the children did in the old days to get the candy. Why do we have all those pumpkins? Nobody knows. Do you know the story of Lantern Jack? Of course.
Let's hear it. Give it to us.
Well, it's an Irish tale. I'm probably from around the world. Jack, this merry fellow that tricks the devil, like to turn into a coin, so he can pay his beer with the coin of the devil. But then instead, he just paints a cross in his wallet, and the coin is down there, and he can't get out because of the cross, the crucifix, and he makes the devil promise him whatever. And so once Jack dies, he can't go to heaven because he's a trickster, can't go to hell because devils don't want him in. So he has to wander the world forever. But the devil feels sorry for him, so gives him this glowing piece of coal, and he can't carry it. It's hot. So he puts it in a pumpkin to light his way, which is the original tale about why do we have all these pumpkins.
It's because of Jack.
This was the entrance to telling stories with the old folks. It's like to be forgotten, to not knowing where we come from. That Halloween sells far much more merchandise in Denmark than Christmas does. Why do we add all this plastic to the world? Nobody gets scared from a plastic spider. Why do we want that? What is really scary? So in that way, it was just, wow. That was the luck of being invited into this. That's one source, I think. And the other is like a childish, boyish, willfully blindness to see, I don't care. I'll just get back up there and do it again. And I'll fall and I'll fail, and that's okay. I'll just get back up there. because that's what I am. That's what I do. I'm a storyteller. I am the one that tells.
That's incredible. So the secret sauce then is, as for in your world, is a little bit of good fortune and some guile as well. You've got this kind of throw the caution to the wind and just go.
Yeah.
Like you said in your story, which is that you one day just saw this train and decided to leave university, get on the train, and the train's still going.
Exactly that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So in terms of how you encourage people to really give the best of themselves when they come to share their story at Besttellers, or they come for training, or any of those different ways they might interact with you, what do you say to them to get them to really harness their own power in the story, to be able to tell their story?
We have two things that goes on in that process. And one is the idea of why are you there? And if you're there because you want to be a storyteller, maybe you want to reconsider. But if you're there because you want to tell stories, that's a totally different thing. Are you the interesting one, or the story the interesting one?
I see.
So if you want to be a storyteller, maybe you want to reconsider, are you ready for that? Or if you just want to share stories and bring light and joy and horror and whatever, that's totally great. But if it's about you, maybe not.
Wow. Yesterday, was it 2 days ago, I spoke to Serena Constance here in the UK, who talks about stories and being living things, living, breathing things. And she shared a lot of great insights around, allowing sometimes a story to come to you. And actually, I've heard that a couple of times in a series of these conversations. So the story itself is the real prize.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could be the treasure chest, but the treasure is the story. I contain it for you to find and find joy in and go away and be rich with.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. And the other thing is the way you communicate. So why is it interesting for you or for me? I see a lot of people that does communication that says, well, the important thing is this or that, or I know this and this and this and that. And you can go away thinking, wow, they're really clever. They know a lot. That's a big failure, because you want to, I would like my audience to go away and think, oh, I know a lot. Like the audience knows a lot and they get enriched. So that's, I think that those two approaches are the most important ones, to say, what do you have to share from your life, your unique DNA, your upbringing, your time in the world. You took some left turns down the street, you met something, you tried something, somewhere in your life you were in trouble. How did you handle that? I want to know that. What does love look like for you? How does it smell and taste? Are you like me on the inside? You see something you fancy and you can just go, but something in you makes you stop because you just don't dare going there, making the decision of going and saying, hey, I find you very attractive. I'd like to take you for a walk and buy you an ice cream. Or how do you do it? Maybe we could like spring ideas, or how do you talk to your son about he wants to go home from basketball alone, but maybe it's a dangerous neighborhood, or maybe he really should and find out it's not a dangerous neighborhood, or something.
Dare to explore.
Yeah, dare to explore and see what. Don't get stuck in a single-minded side of the story, because then you miss out on life. What is the other way? What also could happen? I worked at a hospital for 14 years as a storyteller. And I asked kids there and people that were definitely going to die from horrible diseases. And I asked them, what do you know about life? Now, you've been to the edge, you've been looking down the edge, and you're probably going to fall off soon. But if you could like take one sentence with your own blood and paint on the, I'll do it up here, paint on the wall to leave us something from you before you die, what would it be? Like our ancestors did their handprints on the face of the caverns. Why did they do that? What did they mean? Probably they meant, I was here. I was someone. And they paint the oxes and the pigs and whatever what do you call the boars?
Yeah.
Why? Maybe it's the same as this. Maybe it's the same as Facebook saying, this is me and this is what I had to eat today. And we have a life when we have a story to tell about our lives.
Yeah.
And every child, every one I met in the hospital for 14 years that was going to die, they said the same thing. All of them. Enjoy what you have. Be grateful and thankful for what you have. And the rest, just forgive.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, how can a 10-year-old girl who's going to die teach me this?
Yeah.
And who would I be if I didn't take it in and say, I have so much. I wake up every day and I go and tell stories. That's what I do. How lucky am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're in this hospital and you're also being told stories too.
Absolutely.
Wow. So I'm hearing that there is this component of legacy, but at the same time, it's a selfless legacy because it's about the message and what it is that you're leaving behind for others in the story. And also it's about the others. So there's something really selfless about the way you approach stories, which is quite amazing. And I really like that distinction. Now, I'll tell you, before we even met and I read all your information and everything, I saw this amazing quote on your website, which was, stories don't just make us listen, they make us belong. And I was just like, I love this. But now I'm like, oh, should I now change that and say, do you want to be a storyteller or do you want to tell stories? And that is such a poignant moment for me in listening to that. So I was going to say later on, maybe you could share a bit about how you think we use stories as the human race now. And, I heard you already mentioned Facebook and all these technological companies. There's everybody, right? And storytelling is a big word, which is why I'm having these conversations, because now, I mean, just as a typical example, my work, I do strategic storytelling, but I do something called mindful storytelling, which is very holistic. It is about life transformation. It's about getting unstuck on your own hero's journey of your life and moving from victimhood into hero. And it's really quite an empowering way of using the story structure. And I felt that, whenever, if I do an engagement, I'm just, oh, great, you do stories. So can you help us with this, and this, and this? Well, that's a different kind of storytelling. Maybe you need a marketing person for that. Oh, actually, no, I see what you're trying to do there. Maybe you need a public speaking coach for that one. And then the world gets so big. So in terms of how stories are being used now, maybe is it in business or in society? I don't know. Open question. How do you see them being used in the world? What's the prevalence of storytelling nowadays? Is there one sort of predominant view of what storytelling is? And how do you think they could be used better or differently?
I think, let me have a thought about that. I think there are absolutely, like you describe it, quite good. They're all over the place. Yeah. And a lot of people just scream, I'm a storyteller. It's like, okay, how do you tell stories? I carve stone. Yeah, we have another word for that as well. So a lot of movie makers in Denmark call themselves storytellers and painters call them storytellers. No, maybe not. Maybe you're a painter and that's totally cool. But I tell stories with my mimic dance. No, you don't. You move your body. You're a mimic. that's different. And I think the way that we can become better, to start on that end, is all of us to actually honor the ancestors and the tradition, saying, what is story? What is really story?
Yeah.
And it seems that you can go quite a far way in this world, in the storytelling world. If you know some of it, then you can go a long way. If you do great pauses in your stories, then you can become a hero here. If you have great tonality or really intense eye contact or something, people will love you for it. But what if we learn from each other and say, hey, Calvin, you have this wonderful warmth about you. You have this radiance of, what a nice guy. I want to listen to him. Can you inspire us all to become a bit nicer? You don't want to all become lookalikes, but want to get inspired from each other and say, yeah, I can do a bit of that.
Yeah.
I know that in your country, I've heard that I'm the one who puts the cat to the chickens.
The cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, that. Yeah. I'm that guy who does that. I've heard. I was like, yeah, that's me. I don't like small talk very much. I like true talk. It's like, what do you really think? Who you really are? Because life is so short. So let's make something with our lives. And that's one end of it. Become good at it. And if you can't become good at it, just become better at it all the time. And I met a wonderful girl, and she was a trainer for people who wanted to ride horses from Iceland, Icelandic ponies. And she said to me, Casper, it takes 200 years to learn how to ride a horse. And I thought, yes, that's perfect. Then none of us are amazing. Then we're all just children fumbling around trying. That's good. And then to take some of the pressure off, and I just adapted that and say, yeah, it takes 200 years to become a great storyteller. And then all the ones who want training say, yeah, okay, yeah. Then I don't have to pretend I'm good. Then just I can learn from you and a bit from that and like that and see what I can do with that.
Yeah.
So that I think is one thing we can do. I think it's all over, and I think it's gonna stay.
So can I just ask a quick question there? So there's a lot more of embracing the truth, your truth, being true, being more authentic as a human being, and telling stories more from that position that is probably we're not seeing enough of, or we would like to see more of, maybe. Is that what you mean?
Yes and no. Let's pretend something. Let's pretend you're at get rid of Corona for a while and just pretend you're at a dinner party.
Okay.
And you have a wonderful lady sitting next to you. And in Denmark, you would have this pre-course, probably of some fish, shrimp, something really nice and light, and glass of white wine. And there'll be candles and people chatting. And it's going to be an amazing night. And just then, there's the side of a fork on a glass. And 4 seats down, somebody gets up. And they're going to do some speech. And by then, it's already too long. Have you been to that party? Your face tells me you have.
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Vaguely, we have that in Denmark. Come check it out. And your hand just reaches for the wine bottle to make sure your glass is as full as you can handle, because you know this is going to be forever, and every sense of greatness in the room just vanished, and this person just keeps talking. And the only one in the room that doesn't know it's horrible is them. But nobody tells them. And this is pretending to be communicating, pretending that we are communicating, but we're not. Oh, that was a great speech. Now, where were we? And that's horrible. So we don't trust the outside. No, what we really want to do is tell stories to the little voice in the head that really tells us what's really going on. So if we feed that fact that what I think and I should and I know, it gets boring in few very short seconds. But if you feed it images and joys and dilemmas, it was like, what will happen next? And they will offer you the greatest currency in the world, attention. We have so little time and so little attention. There's a lot to know and see and do in our lives. But if you can offer a coherent story, well told, people will give you their attention in, what do you call that, in reverse. And you can actually have true communication. And I love that when it's real. So yes, speak your truth. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm quiet because I'm sort of bathing in your words. So as we move forward then, this new world, and you mentioned, imagine Corona set aside. So we've got all these challenges and so on. How, if you could wave a magic wand and say, okay, now I'm going to use my storytelling experience and talent, and I'm going to put it into a particular area to affect some kind of positive change, where would you put that, invest that storytelling prowess that you have?
If I had like one dart to throw at that, I would absolutely throw it at the schools and say, hey, teachers, tell those kids some stories. When I was in first grade, I was 7. I was sitting there in the room with 26 other kids, and the teacher walks in. He was an old man. He had the same haircut as you.
Oh,
but he really
very easy kind of haircut.
Very easy, but he has long hairs of his nostrils, and it was like, whoa, what's going on? And the first day I was there, he started telling me the Odyssey. I didn't know. It was like, whoa, what is that? And I could taste the salt from the ocean, and I could get seasick with Odysseus, and I could know, don't mess with the Cyclops because they're really bad boys. And it took, I don't know, weeks to tell it because we only had sections of it. In one lesson, we got some. It's 40 years ago plus, and it's still there.
Yeah,
it's still there. I can open my mouth and let it out. And if you can do that, he only did it once. I only heard it once in my life. But if you can do that and make it stick for 40 years, then you should. After he was done, he told me the Greek mythology, and he told me the Nordic mythology and the Roman mythology. And then I was in, second grade or something. They just stick. Yeah. I wonder what would have happened if my math teacher had done the same. If my biology teacher had done this. Instead of handing me a boring book that I didn't want to read.
Yeah.
I think teachers should be the storytellers of a society. That would be wonderful.
You're reminding me of two things. I remember reading a book in school called The Chrysalids. I don't know if you ever read that story. No. But it was dystopian future, and it sort of envisaged this future where people were back to rudimentary farming, but they were so extreme in their religious views. And it was such a vivid story. And it was the first book when I was in early teens that got me interested in stories again after having read Amos and the Amazing Fish 7 years before. So for 7 years, I was so not interested in stories because the school system I was in, unfortunately, when I was small, I was in the Caribbean. It was all, capital punishment. If your nails were long, you'd get whipped. If socks were down, you'd get whipped. And it was literally beating the love of learning out of you. And it's so paradoxical because stories and learning, they go hand in hand, right?
Sorry you had to go through that, man.
No, yeah, I mean, it's one of those eras that I've come up in, which everybody, I don't think I was special there at all, and a lot of us came through that kind of system, but it took a really amazing story to really captivate my attention, as you talked about that really precious currency. So when we put that into the education system, we inspire these kids, then do we enable everybody to be better storytellers by default? What's the sort of result?
I think the biggest result that we can absolutely hope for is the idea that you don't know life, that you need to look around the corner. Like you talked about Campbell and Hero's Journey earlier. And you need to learn and learn again that you must face the dragons. If you want to fight them, if you want to hug them, that's up to you. But they're there, and life is there, and life has so many shades that you forget about knowing. It's much more about being interesting and curious, like you are with this. We never spoke before. And we're having a real conversation because you reached out and you said, hey, you want to do this? And it's like, yeah, I want to do that. A guy who does that, reaches across oceans, I want to do that. You made me curious. So I could have done a million things with this hour, but there's nothing I'd rather want to do right now than engage in this conversation with you. And if I wasn't taught that life can be amazing just around the corner, maybe you should open the blue door. Maybe you should, because things can change. And then if you don't know that, you get stuck in one single story about your life. And that, I think, is dangerous.
Yeah. So
I would hope it would provide the idea that you can go down the road and things will change. I'd like that.
Yeah. It sounds to me like there's some psychological flexibility that comes with exploring all these different stories, and whether it's the monomyth or whether it's, like you say, the Odyssey, or whether it's a story from you and your life and what you've been through, it gives us these wider experiences. We don't have to travel 1,000 miles to understand the human struggle of somebody of a completely different language set, a completely different experience.
And I think when you say psychological flexibility, I think you're right. And there's a further step to that when you describe your school with the whipping and the beating and my whole limbic system reacts to that. I haven't tried it, but I know how it is now. And I feel that. So when I get to feel what you feel, or what you felt, without having the experience, then I'm doing the act of empathy. Understanding the world from your words. And that, I think, is needed and necessary. And I think storytelling is the basis, the basic training of empathy. And when I ask even I was with a group of kids that were neglected in the, what do you call that? In the bottom of society. And we should do language training, but we couldn't really get to it because it was like, no, we can't do stories. And then it's like, well, that's not. But what if a vampire came? How would we kill it? It's like, you had to use a stick and you had to use that. And what about a zombie? You'd have to hit it in the head because the brain. And suddenly we could talk about all the things. Nobody saw a zombie, nobody saw a vampire, but we know how to deal with that because we heard stories. We won't be needing that knowledge probably, but we still have it. And that's how stories is. There are tools of life to handle problems that you haven't faced yet. Then if you've handled your problem well, and I can hear about that, I can feel, I can do that. And when I face that problem, I can think of Calvin's and I know how to handle it. Stories are tools of life and empathy, and that I hope for.
Oh, before you go, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel. It means a lot more than you know. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye for now.